Well, hello again, YouTube. Josh back again with another Star Trek The Next Generation book review. Today we are on the number 2, The Peacekeepers, which I've just finished up reading yesterday. Have a good look at the cover there. I'll read the front. The Enterprise discovers a derelict space station in a world where war has been outlawed. From the back. Exploring a deserted alien spaceship, Lieutenant Commander Data and Lieutenant Geordi LaForge suddenly find themselves transported light years away into the middle of a deadly conflict. While Captain Picard and the crew of the Enterprise search feverishly for the missing crewmen, Data and LaForge discover they are in a station almost identical to the one they were exploring, high in orbit around an Earth-type world. Years before, the occupants of that planet accidentally stumbled onto the ship and its advanced technology, and since then have used its weapons to keep the nations on the planet below disarmed and at peace. Now their own arrival has precipitated a crisis on the station. Somehow, Data and LaForge must find a way to restore trust between the planet below and the station's guardians up above, before a final destructive war breaks out. So, sounds exciting, and it was exciting. I started reading this book last Monday night, and I probably could have finished it on Wednesday. I was that into it, but I said, nope, I'm going to slow it down, and stretched it out, and it took the whole week to kind of finish it and digest it all in. The basic summary I just gave you to kind of touch upon that more. I guess what this novel is really, the theme it's mainly going for is kind of like a demilitarization, denuclearization. So, tens of thousands of years ago, there was this race of people that, for whatever reason, did not want species to advance, to go out into space. So they set these craft up to basically guard and watch over them, and to stop them from advancing beyond a certain rate. So when they started flying up into space, these peacekeeper crafts would shoot them down. Something happened to the species, they all went extinct, but this base still remained. So the Enterprise stumbles across it, and Data and LaForge are transported over, and then are lost when they activate basically this station's security, and are beamed through subspace to a planet very far away from them. The crew then sends Yar and Riker onto the derelict ship after them to kind of see if they can't recreate what happened and follow them somehow. They've kind of exhausted every other effort and every other way of tracking down where they've been beamed to. Going back, Geordi and Data, they show up above this planet in this smaller peacekeeper craft, and are met by an inhabitant of that planet named Charlan. Now, Charlan thinks that Geordi and Data are actually the species that built this, so he kind of looks upon them as gods, and explains that he was the one that found this craft all that time ago, and he was the one who used it to destroy the planet's nuclear weapons, and over the past 50 years has also used it to basically take control of this planet and keep them from advancing, building ships, and getting out into space. He doesn't explain all this forthright. He just kind of is trying to act very suspicious, and basically is kind of, and Geordi and Data, they're just kind of playing along with it. They're saying, oh yeah, well, we're the builders, and we're just here to check on things, see how things are going. So they eventually get the real story is that this guy, over this period of time, has kind of become a dictator and is just controlling this planet beneath him. And they meet up with his brother, Chartel, who's kind of like the leader of the opposition, who wants to stop him from doing this and be able to return control of the planet to the people on the planet below so that they can advance normally. So going back to the derelict now, Riker and Yar have activated the same systems that Data and LaForge did, and they activate this transporter and are transported through subspace away, just like Data and Geordi were. That also activates the self-destruct within the derelict ship. It blows up, leaving Picard and the rest of the crew basically with no way to find out where they've went, except for just a slow, methodical search of the area, which is what they begin. The majority of the story focuses on the four there who've been beamed to the Peacekeeper ship. So when Riker and Yar beam in, they kind of instinctively follow the story that Data and Geordi have set up, so that Charline still believes that they are these builders. Without going into too much more spoilery details for this part of the review, basically what happens is they are able to kind of work themselves through a way of getting this planet back on its rightful path, removing this builder's ship, but doing so in a way to not violate the Prime Directive. What did I think of the book? I liked it. I thought it was really good. Like I said, it kept my interest. I wanted to watch. I wanted to finish it up way earlier in the week, and I probably could have read through it much quicker if I just sat down and had the time. The author here was Jean Deweese, who's written, I know, several novels, but I enjoyed his portrayal of the characters here. He's taken the last novel I read, Ghost Ship, was more set. Well, they made the characters kind of less close. In this, which is supposedly set sometime around episode 10 of season 1, that's kind of gone, and the characters have they have some of that closeness, and there's not like they just got together. One of the things that I will point out I thought kind of funny here is featured on the cover, as you can see, is Picard and Troy and Worf, who you would think maybe are now centered in the story because they're on the cover, but they're not. They are actually play a very small role. I would say out of all the characters in the book, these three appear the least, which is maybe why they decided to put them on the cover. I'm going to rate this book out of 5. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. And since I've just started reviewing books, I'm not really sure what that scale means, and we'll determine that more as we move forward throughout these many, many novels we'll all be going through together. Okay, that's going to be the end of the spoiler section, or the non-spoiler section of my review. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can stop the review right here, right now, and go pick up The Peacekeepers and read it. I recommend it. And then come back and you can listen to the rest of the video. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Anyway, so now for everyone that's read the book, we can kind of discuss this and further talk about some spoilers, talk about the ending, which was a kind of a typical silly Star Trek ending, but I liked it. One of the things I want to read here is a quote which stuck out at me enough where I had to read back through and kind of find where it was, because I really liked it. So this is Chartel, and he's talking about the people on his planet and how they've changed since the time when they basically all wanted to destroy each other with nuclear weapons. It sounds familiar. Now we are all united. Those of us up here, those on the planet below, in our desire to bring peace to the world. A peace that we won't have, that won't have been forced on us by an alien technology and a possessed madman. A peace that instead will come from the elimination of rabid nationalism and militarism, an evolution beyond our mind's calamitous territorial impulses. That's a mouthful, but I really like the quote, and it kind of stuck with me. And kind of reminds me of how a lot of things are today. So, going into closer on the ending on this, they kind of took where you were at and they just threw it for a whole loop. So, at the end, basically they have to find a way to get rid of this Peacekeeper ship. Well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. They do. There's some very exciting sequences here where Charline realizes that the crew here is not this species of builders, and attempts to expel them from the area. So he activates a subspace transporter and transports them all out into space. So there was an interesting little chapter there I liked where they were all out in space, and I thought they kind of handled that well, the way they got back together and planned to try to get back to the ship. And they were all able to, be rescued by the Enterprise, who had completed its maneuvers and got to that at that point. But anyway, going on to the ending, which I thought was just kind of a little out there, but very funny, and which is maybe why we have this cover here with these three here. The ending was interesting. So they have to find a way to get rid of this builder's ship. And they have to, Picard, of course, wants to do it without violating the Prime Directive as much as possible, without interfering with these people's natural development. Now, since these people already are aware of the builder's ship and its capabilities and what it can do, they decided to kind of build upon that. So they actually create a giant holographic image in the sky that these ships that have come up to kind of destroy the builders can see. And they make Worf play the part of one of these builders, and they make him basically work with Shartel and say that he was been in control this whole time, and it's because of him, and he's been playing this game with them. And then Shartel kind of tells the rest of them that we can overcome them if we try. And so Worf, who's transported all of these people in there into this kind of made-up holodeck room with them to kind of scare them, lets himself be overcome by this group of like seven of these aliens and knocked down, who then make their escape from the place. And then Shartel activates the destruction of it, and the thing is completely blown up. So the Enterprise gets to leave. The planet below, they all just think that the builders were overcome by their own people, and that they were able to do this themselves, and now they can move forward to some kind of real peace without this alien interference, and maybe work towards reaching out into the stars. Boy, I know that kind of went all over the place, and we're already at 12 minutes, so we're gonna get ready. We're gonna cut this one right here. I hope you all enjoyed my review of Star Trek: The Next Generation #2, The Peacekeepers. I have already started the next week's review, which is going to be #3, The Children of Hamlin, which I am excited to continue and get into, and we'll hopefully have up for everybody next week. That's it for now. Have a great week. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you soon.